Welcome to Damaged Disciple. I'm Todd.
I'm Kenny.
And I say this all the time before I introduce our guests. Man, we have these Hollywood guys have nothing on our guest list. I'm telling you. Bryan, welcome to the show. He is the pastor of the Assembly Church. And how you doing today? You had your podcast this morning.
I'm good.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks
man.
for coming.
Great. It's exciting.
It's been a long time coming.
Right. It's cool. I don't know. This is a cool space you guys have.
Yeah, man.
You're on like episode 9.
We got this. So well, I think you'll be our 8th.
10? I think 10.
10.
Oh,
wow.
Dude,
we're big time.
Let's go.
10?
Yeah.
I want to do out of 0. I come again.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Let's go.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Special.
So when I met Bryan through a close friend of ours, we all know him, Clay. He invited me to the church, and I didn't know what to expect. It's at 5 p.m. I'm like, I don't know, night church. That's my downtime. I'll come check it out. And then, so it's in a coffee shop downtown Tacoma, Ebony and Ivory. We'll give them a shout out. And so I'm sitting there, and I'm like, okay, this is kind of cool. We're just casual people, just sitting around having coffee, talking about God. It's great. And then the second time, I'm like, okay, maybe we're reading the same one again because some people weren't here. And then the third time, and I'm like, I don't know if this is for me. So I text Bryan. I go, hey, I really appreciate it. I love what you're doing. I love your mission, but I don't think it's for me. And he texted me right back, come back. And I'm like, I don't know, maybe. And I would come every once in a while and, make an appearance and say hi to everybody. So tell me a little bit about where you and your wife is your co-pastor. Am I saying that right? Co-pastor? Am I giving her?
I like whatever you're saying.
Okay. Okay.
I'll explain. I'll give you some language in a second.
Yeah.
But finish your question. I'm not going to cut you off.
Then on Instagram, you said that you're going to do a series on loneliness. And I'm like, man, that's awfully brave. Because I was going through a season of loneliness, struggling with it. I'm going to go check this out. And then after the 12 weeks?
12 weeks. We did 12 weeks.
Yeah. So,
which, golly, I hope you were in for the conversation because you're like, well, you're going to be here for a few months.
Yeah. But anyways, so after that point, I was like, okay, this guy has something going on here. So I'm going to start coming on a regular basis. And I've been there ever since. And now I understand the process.
The kind of philosophy a little bit. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I don't think the philosophy is that crazy, although it is crazy in our world. But I feel like, let's take the whole scope of the church.
Okay.
Let's take 2,000 years of history.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would feel like this is mostly not crazy.
Yeah.
Right.
I feel like what we would think of as church, they'd be like, oh, that's kind of an outlier.
Right.
But if you take literally 100 years before this isn't even that crazy.
Yeah.
What's wild is if you take the last 100 years, which what we think of as church, predominantly you see a flatlining in more followers of Jesus.
Yes.
But you didn't see that 100 years ago. You definitely, what's crazy is you go from Jesus is crucified, buried.
Mm-hmm.
Were there other people claiming to be messiahs?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
Absolutely.
before and after, right?
Yes.
Right.
What normally happened when they died? Well, a good strategy would be you steal the body, and then you usually have a sibling reemerges them. It carries out. This was not this wasn't the first time this play had happened.
Right.
They weren't even, Jesus is obviously profound, but they had followers. This wasn't unheard of. It happened again after Jesus.
Right.
Where the movement fizzles out is, okay, you got his brother until how long? Brother's going to have to die at some point too. At some point, you just can't run this. And so, the craziest would be you get a generation out and people are still thinking this is it. Mm-hmm. That'd be pretty rare.
Right.
So to go from Jesus is scandalously, speaking a language that's anti the Roman Empire, which was doing okay.
Yeah.
They're doing all right.
They did all right.
And then 300 years later, Caesar's face is replaced on their currency from Jesus's face.
Yeah.
You have to ask, what was happening? That's a substantial. You talk about grassroots movement. That is a massive leap.
Yeah.
Now, sure, you could be like, oh, it's just God did it. But that's never how God works in Scripture. God is always just catalyzing broken people, to be able to be the hands and feet of the thing.
Right.
So somehow this happened. And so I just asked the question, like, well, if we flatlined, which, by the way, people are like, oh, flatlined, you be careful. Like, you got to look at your data. The last year, people are coming back to church. If you look at the data, primarily what you're seeing are people who they had a church background. Mm-hmm. They didn't go to church, and now they are, that's great.
Maybe had a little bit of church.
I'm not saying that's bad, but they had a little something.
Right.
What you're not seeing is like unreached people groups massively being like, I am now this.
Right.
And that was happening at scale for a large portion of the movement of following Jesus. Right. And so we wanted to ask the question, like, why? Mm-hmm. And then I wanted to get to the answer of why. And then I just was like, oh man, the ROI, the dollar to ROI in how we're doing church in the Western world, the math is just not making sense. Like, this is a very expensive model.
Right.
And there's fruit. I'm not saying there's not fruit.
Right.
But then you look at like a place like Iran where the gospel's actually exploding and you're like, well, they do it for a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
And it's moving very quickly and they're making a lot more disciples.
Right.
And so you've got to ask the question, like, well, then what a part of our cultural context is slowing us down?
100%.
So then that's where the idea of the church kind of came from. So, all right, you got a pen in front of you?
Yeah.
Do this for a second. Flip to a new page. Oh yeah, you can all do it. You all got pens. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go.
All right, grab your pens. Grab a new page.
You talking about this guy's the king of notes.
He's talking about notes and stuff here.
You got him all excited.
I don't know, for people who are just listening, you got leather bound. All right, I just want to get, so you're not looking for quality, you're looking for speed. Okay. Right. I don't have a timer, but I'm trying to get you on speed. Down the middle, draw a line. So draw a line. You need essentially two boxes. Like at some point, it doesn't matter if you do hot dog or hamburger. It doesn't matter.
I'm about to say horizontal. Okay.
I just want to get speed. You're trying to go off gut reaction. Okay. It doesn't matter if you're an artist or not an artist. I'm kind of to go fast. I want you under 10 seconds. I'm going to give you one thing to draw, and it's easy. And I'm going to give you one thing to draw that's a little bit harder, but it's more because it's more ethereal. It takes like, oh, what? How would I think about that?
Okay.
So let's make it easy. Let's go. First one. You're just trying to go for speed. Draw church. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pens down. Switch to the other side. Speed. Draw team. Ethereal. Remember, like it's ethereal. Okay. You draw. What's a team? What's a team look like? Draw me a team. Give me something. Give me something to look at. Corporate, sports. Give me something to look at. Pens down. Okay. Pull them up. Pull them up. Todd, what'd you draw? What's your look? Talk me through your first box. What's your show to me?
The church with the steeple.
Love that.
And the cross, and then
but kind of the same.
Okay. Yeah. Mike, let me hold yours for a second.
Yeah, go ahead. I drew people.
Okay, leave yours aside for a second. You get out of here, Mike. Get out of my brain, my dude. All right, these are perfect. All right, so Todd, you've got, and for everyone listening, I'm going to talk box 1 first because we'll get to box 2, which, boy, this sounds interpretive in a good way. Yeah, which way? Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, you can show it the way.
Okay, so Todd's, you've got church, love it. Steeple, slanted arches. Love your team. Talk me through it. Did you just not have time? Or
no. That's my team. When I thought a team is the people that are in my circle.
Love that.
The people that I can, everybody that's in my circle are people that I can trust with backstage access.
Okay, this is great. We've got, I think you took it a step further. Talk me through your church. What do you got?
So it was basically the same. I just thought of our church, which is a small, humble, structurally, a church, with an actual building per se. And then, that's what I thought. And then
there's some people gathered.
Right.
You have more than, there's more than 3.
Right.
That's probably a team.
Right.
All right. Mike. Jedi over here.
He just met you and he's already saying Mike.
It's like Mike's over here just like, these aren't the droids you're looking for.
Yep.
Okay, so I would suggest that if Paul or Jesus was, obviously Jesus is going to use this, but Jesus, if Paul just flew in here and he was like, draw me a church. We would draw the first one. He'd be like, I don't get it.
Right.
It wouldn't even compute.
Register. Yeah.
It'd be like, me saying like, hey, draw the San Antonio Spurs.
Right.
and like, and you draw like an airport, you'd be like, you might be able to get me there with logic. I just don't see what you're talking about.
Right.
So Mike Drew, group 1 is people. Group 2, actually, for team, you do have there's something else happening here. What's happening at the top?
I just wrote yay because I had a little bit more time.
Oh, yeah. They're feeling like excited.
Yeah.
So I would argue that like Jesus uses a word for church that's ecclesia, which you guys know, but it's the root of it's civic, not religious. So it's like it's a city term.
Right.
It is to describe people. It would be bizarre to think in terms of a building. That would be so strange.
Yeah.
Right.
You watch Paul in his mission field. Okay, first watch Jesus. Count the number of times Jesus is in temple doing something versus out of temple.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, geez, he's not in temple much of the time.
Yeah.
No.
Not anti-temple, just not in there. People
Probably
like, he's flipping tables. I'm like,
count on one hand.
he did it one time. He wasn't every time he's like, oh, here comes the guy that flips all the tables.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But you can count on one hand. Paul is fascinating because he's in some really interesting spaces.
Oh,
that are
yeah.
like, he's
Oh,
in the
yeah.
place of like civic, conversation, marketplace. And so what you look at if you look at the Jesus movement is so much of the heart that made not only people say, I'm curious about Jesus, but then made disciples was really we think of like house church movement at the start, but you got to picture these people that like are hosting church out of their house. It's like first 100 years of the church.
Right.
Yeah.
Their house was their business.
Yeah.
You weren't thinking as much as the sense of like, oh, this is my home my family lives in.
Right.
Your family lived upstairs, your business was downstairs.
Yes.
The primary operating system of the early church was entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
A lot of what you have of the oikos is the word of like these kind of like social networks. The circle, you're my circle.
Yeah.
My people are, some of them work for me. Some of them are a part of my unit. So like it's just a sense of this tribe.
Yeah.
Right.
Those are converging as a church.
Right.
That's spreading as a movement. And then you got to think at some point you had the Greek and Roman mind was so uniquely different from the Jewish mind.
Right. Right.
Both are coming together and somehow having a place to get their heads around this.
Yeah.
That's not just one person talking at them.
Yeah.
There's no way that happens because you're like, there's too much conversation to be had.
Yeah. Yeah.
So much of the early church was leaving space. Like you would think about the word pastor means what?
Like shepherd.
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 Yep.
Yep.
The shepherd
Leader.
was sort of the facilitator of the place.
Gotcha.
Like that's what the pastor was doing.
Yeah.
The pastor, early churches, pre 400 years, or 300 years, we can hit the 300 year mark if you want to bring in some like what happened. But pre 300 years in, you primarily have homes, businesses. You have a table for a meal, the Lord's table.
Right.
People are coming in. There's a sense of like really high hospitality, radical hospitality. It's formed in a kind of a U shape, and there's probably a facilitator who's at the front is helping facilitate a sense of conversation. But you're never seeing the idea that it's a single person talking to rows of people.
Yeah.
That does come later, and then a lot of what the church adopts is like actually still that structure, not because it's evil, but because it doesn't create the body that they're hoping to do.
Right. Right.
Mm.
So you didn't want people sitting in rows staring forward at you. You wanted people. So explain how you came up with that
choreography.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, well, because we often talk about the body of the church, but then we treat the body as if like the brain is the only one communicating. But how a body actually works is that the body communicates that something's going on. The brain then responds with what you should do. And it's a back and forth communication with the body. We often don't see that really in some churches.
Well, I should be on. I should just be. Mike should be on your podcast. That was so good.
That was
Mike's in my mail, man.
We got a name for that. It's called Mikey's Corner.
Mikey's Corner.
Yeah.
But, okay, totally. So let's take Paul, 1 Corinthians 12. He's like the church is a body. Okay, so we're like, that sounds nice. Pro people having bodies. Like, cool idea, Paul.
Right.
It had a lot of teeth in it. Paul probably got some emails. Some people probably left the church. You're like, what? It was that rich?
Right,
yeah,
right.
It was subversive.
Right.
So you have Corinth society. You've got the Greek thought thinkers, primarily thinking through the lens of Stoicism. Stoicism says exactly that. The brain is the center point. In Stoicism and in Corinth culture, your body exists for your brain. Like that is your body is just a vessel.
Right.
That's why Corinth was like their sexuality was so distorted because they had this line in Corinth that was like food for the body, which is a way of being like, if I'm hungry, I eat. If I want to go have sex with a temple prostitute, I do what I like. That's because everything supports this brain up here.
Right.
Paul is taking that same image and he's like, yes, the church is a body, but Paul says, there's some discrete parts of your body that, boy, do you need them to function. I was like, you want to just live with a brain? Great. How are you going to reproduce?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You're going to like how some of these parts of your body you don't like to talk about, but you do need them.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I would go to say the church, what we've done is we've actually accidentally adopted that model. So when you've got Constantine becomes emperor, Constantine makes Christianity the Roman religion. I mean, it is genius.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've got what? Rome is starting to fracture in a way that feels like you've got some different patterns of belief. People are like, this thing maybe died. Maybe we don't even have a Rome anymore.
Right.
He's like, no, we do, and it's going to be great. And look at this. We've got a grassroots movement of little cells already meeting and gathering and already with some sort of uniformity. Oh, I'll tell them that this is our thing, and now I've got all of their allegiance. And look at that. They've got all this goodwill and altruism. I'll use that for the political spectrum. So you're like, okay, so now Rome, God can use anything.
Right.
But here's the thing. Let's say we're in the we're 298. Okay, we've spent generations persecuted. We've been hiding. We have like baptized people in secret. Rome comes to us like, good news, boys. The emperor is a Christian now, and he just took his civic center, the center of all Roman learning, the one right in the center of the square. You know, the one where the person stands in the front, and because Rome, we love a sense of control, we've set rows for everybody to sit in. We've taken that, and guess what? We're going to give it to you. Now, don't worry. We're going to pay all the bills. We're actually going to pay you as the pastor.
Right.
Good news. The whole thing's been taken care of. You don't have a bill. Well, that deal does look kind of sweet.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And God can use anything.
Right.
We may take that deal.
Yeah.
And here's what you have. You have a controlled Roman state church. So if you're the emperor, you're like, yeah.
100%.
So then what happens is you have followers of Jesus actually going into like Northern Africa. And this is what you call the desert mothers and fathers who are like, we don't feel good about this.
Right.
Yeah.
And yet let's pretend you and I love each other. We're in like a relationship of just like doing the mission. We like love Jesus. You and I have baptized people. We live in the same city in Rome, and I take the check and you feel like critically something in your spirit doesn't feel right about it.
Yeah.
But then I'm still baptizing people.
Right. Right.
You're like, how do I reconcile with you through the gospel if you took the thing I don't think is right? So the church is trying to wrestle through like, it doesn't feel right, but God can work through anything, and we are not going to play the game of inner division. We are going to try and unify. Constantine asks them, he's like, listen, guys, I love this. I don't know what we're doing, but he's basically like, here's what I need from you. I need a really clear one page of kind of what we're saying, because there's a lot of division, and boy, Rome works off a clean boundary. So if we can really clean this up, that'll feel great. That's where we get the Council of Nicaea, which is actually a massively important document. It wasn't necessarily because we were like, let's put in writing doctrine. It was Rome saying, let's make this real clean so we can put it on the website, and then we can kind of keep things moving forward. Now, out of the Council of Nicaea, you get great historic Christian thought, and that's where you have really brilliant desert fathers and mothers coming in to say, this is Jesus is Lord, this is what this means, this is the subversive nature of the gospel. But enough time passes, we would draw a building with pews and not people, because of some of where that territory formed us as a civilization. We're also Western, so we like Western things.
Yeah.
It's why we like Paul.
Yeah.
Jesus, we're like, I know. He's Lord. He's God. He's great.
But this wild man
He's seen some crazy stuff. They're like, I don't know. He talks in these stories. And then Paul's is like, Paul says something like, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And we're like, put that on a freaking football jersey, my man. Like, so that's where, I think sometimes it's like in the Western church, it looks like I followed Paul, I put up with Jesus.
Gotcha.
Paul would be like, I'm pointing to Jesus.
Right.
Yeah.
He just thinks like a Greek thinker.
Right.
So what we wanted to do in launching a church is I just was like, listen, if we only have one life to live, if we only have one mark in this country, in this nation, in this one moment, I have so many friends who've walked away from the church or uninterested in church or fired from the church or left the church.
Right.
And I have friends who never went to church who still are like, my friends who never went to church are not like one Christmas mail or away from going.
Right.
Like that's the idea in the church is like, we'll get them with a sign. And you're like,
yeah.
they're not driving by
Give
like
them a car. They'll
like,
do it.
They're not opening their mail being like, what the heck is this church? They're doing a new sermon series?
Right.
Oh my gosh, it's on Philippians? Like they're like, and in the junk pile, they're driving by all our A boards. They're like, don't go to church.
Yeah.
And so I just started to ask the question like, okay, what's low? What does the scrappy church look like in the early days with high missional relational fruit that actually impacted their city, changed families, redirected people's life, took apart the machinery of sort of the industrial revolution of the church, where it's like now we have these sort of machineries of church.
Yeah. Right.
I was like, take that all apart. What would you get? And so we were like, well, let's do a great experiment called this community and actually see if we can live that out and know everything we do in the first 5 years written in pencil. It's a working document. Mm-hmm. People can collaborate together, and we're going to create the future that we think church is possible. And so that's the spirit of what Assembly was. Right. And I, little pieces came from different parts and the kind of the choreography. Some of it was just my friends who didn't follow Jesus during the pandemic that I met in my neighborhood. We'd like read a biography of Jesus together, and I was like, man, that's a cool way to keep. I do better as a communicator hearing a little bit of you than I do just preaching out of my own head. So I was like, how would you work that in? And then I went to this one church with I think it was my in-laws or something. I was like, this is crazy. It was a very historic old church. All of it was like pipe organs.
Oh,
geez. It's just like,
oh man.
But some of those old churches, they just have a little something we've lost in our society.
Right.
Like you're like, dude, this gets back to something. It's like the same way teenagers are now like, they're going offline.
Yeah.
It's like cassette tapes are back. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you went into this church, let's call it, I don't know, like maybe it was an old historic church in the middle of a city, so it's probably 200 people. So it's not like tiny,
right?
But it was like 200 people, and they're all 200 years old,
right?
But like you walked into the foyer, okay,
like your dad and I at your church,
like in the age gap,
yeah.
But there are these people.
I was like, all right,
yeah. So you go in. There's a wall of mugs. And you just pick out a mug, and that's what you carry around with you the whole time. Fill up your coffee, and then you return it, and they wash it when you're done. You're like, this is kind of cool.
So we're sitting
there. That's awesome.
I'll never forget it because I was like, this. We're reading Feeding the 5,000, and this older guy gets up there, and he's like, all right, we're going to read the 5,000. We're going to do the story of Feeding the 5,000. And he was like, some of you have read this a bunch of times. Some of you probably maybe have never heard it. And he's like, pull open the Bible in front of you because it's got a little sleeve for the Bible. Pull the Bible, pull the Bible. He's like, here's the passage you open it. And he's like, okay, can be quiet for 2 minutes. You're just going to read it yourself. Okay. It's like dead quiet.
Yeah.
And he's just standing there. He's like looking at us. And I was like, okay, so I read it. And he's, go ahead.
Was there anything on 5 seconds, 1 minute?
No, not like me.
You're like hurrying.
I'm afraid.
It's great.
I'm an NBA like score clock with a shot clock with only like 1 minute to go. Yeah. It's like 10 seconds on this clock. You got another minute over here.
Like, crunch time. I got it. I'm there.
Kind of slam dunk my lesson, baby.
Yeah. So he's like, read it. You're just like sitting there. And then he's like, okay, I want you to notice 3 things in there that just kind of like seems like you think this is going to help you. And I was like, oh, that's super cool. So I'm like noticing. And he's like, now just we're in pews. So like just turn to one person or 2 people around you. Pews is kind of an awkward term.
Oh, yeah.
Turn to another person next to you. And then just like, what jumped out to you? And I'm like, sick. And so I'm like, turn to like whatever, next to me, you're doing it. And then I've never seen somebody do it like this, where he just like, he then said, what stuck out to us? I was like, oh my gosh, this is buck wild.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like,
he's breaking all the rules.
I don't know why. This is Christians tend to think this more than non-Christians, but Christians think this all the time. Someone's going to say something crazy.
Yeah.
I get that all the time at Assembly. You know who never says that? People who aren't in the in crowd. They're never like, I bet someone says something crazy. Like, it doesn't even register with them.
Right.
people, you can always tell someone's like, they got church background because I'll talk about assembly and they'll be like, oh my gosh, did people say crazy stuff? And I was like, I'll get to that in a second. But so I, you know me, I'm like, oh, frickin' A, someone's going to say something. Why? You know what's so interesting? The Holy Spirit just does such a good job protecting. We just don't trust the Holy Spirit enough.
No,
we just do not trust the Holy Spirit. We think the Holy Spirit's either weird or like maybe just unnecessary.
Yeah.
Because the only way we can trust the Holy Spirit is like, okay, that guy can be in truth with the Holy Spirit. He gets up there and talk. None of us talk. He's gonna freak everybody out.
I was just about to say that, Brian. Like some of us think we're not even worthy of having the, you know what I mean, Holy Spirit. So, and
I think that's why the mission is not moving forward.
Yeah.
Because if we went back to the early church, not only would you be worthy, the question, we'd be in enough conversations that people were like, so you got that cool big garage. Should we do a gathering there?
Right.
And you'd be like, well, not me. And you'd be like, no, we should do one there. You know, where the person's facilitating it, you should do that. And you would be like, no, I don't do the speaking part.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, no one's speaking, but can you hold the conversation and then point to Jesus? And you'd be like, well, kind of, I could do that. And they'd be like, great. Can you get like 5 to 10 people? And you'd be like, probably. We now have turned church into this. Oh, you're going to be a pastor. You're a professional. Like, change your LinkedIn.
Right.
Get all the information. And then what you're going to need to do this is, so I love that you want to launch a church. You'll need to apprentice at a church that knows what they're doing for a while, which I'm not anti-apprenticeship. I'm just saying, like, it's going to slow down the process if you're going to go there and then they're looking at you and like, well, we kind of need you to be able to do your job for Sunday.
Right.
And so you can launch the church, but you need to fundraise $1 million.
Yeah.
And then you need to, starting the first Sunday, you need 300 people or the thing's going to fall apart.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, are you going to pay your worship team? Oh, by the way, you're going to have a whole, you've just taken on a thing. They're like, I don't do this. I have another job. Like the world that they were set up into multiplied church was so simple and repeatable that you actually could apprentice it. You saw it as a texture of your life. You were asking the question of like, how do we move the mission forward? It had high support and high challenge. In today's churching planting world, we want high support and low challenge.
Yeah.
So we're like, we want to pad it for you and give you all the support. And then church planters are like, it's super hard. And I'm like, yeah, it's hard in the wrong areas.
Right.
Yeah.
You're picking the wrong hard.
Yeah,
it will be hard either way, but you have chosen the wrong hard. They're like, oh my gosh, it's just hard. You're burning people out. We got to get our name out there to get the 400 people in the seats. And I got to even come back every week. And then like, if I don't send the email, they don't think, I'm like, yeah, that does sound hard.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Pick a different hard.
Yeah.
And like, so that's where I feel the like energy for assembly.
It's like they want to focus on corporation and then go, oh, well, if you want real church, you want to do small groups.
It's either or.
Yeah.
And I don't think the early church would have come to assembly and been like, oh, it's kind of like a small group. They would have been like, oh, so this is a church. Some of them are, and you've got big churches.
Right.
Jerusalem's a big church.
Right? Yeah.
And then you've got Antioch, which is not as big.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But Jerusalem, you see, they have persecution, but they didn't send anybody. Antioch skips the persecution and they just kept sending out.
Yeah.
They just kept launching people. And so that's where I think for assembly, we were like, okay, what we're going to do? We're going to create a choreography where you can talk to somebody. We're going to create a choreography where you got taught something, but you almost were like, wait, did I get taught something?
Yeah.
People are like, oh, there's no teaching. I'm like, oh, but keep paying attention because there's teaching.
There is.
I'm like, we just teach the Bible.
Yeah.
I just cut all the fluff. And then you're like, and we're going to have worship and we're going to have communion every freaking week.
See, that's what I've noticed that right away. When I first started coming, I was like, man, this is great. We have communion every week. That's a great add-on. You know, it's not just the first Sunday of the month and we're doing it every time. And another great thing about assembly is you're never sitting by the same person twice.
Yep.
Maybe here and there, but you get all these different, there's 4 or 5 people around this table, male and female, and we read the same thing. We talk about different stuff. And we just went over 1 Corinthians 13, 13. And I brought it to my men's group because I was like, man, this is great. We need to talk about this. And junk drawer, you gave it a new name, junk drawer word.
I love it.
Yeah. So and
okay, can I ask you a question, Todd?
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you go like how has that process formed you where you have different voices? Because this is let's go back to the thing, like the tension, like people say crazy stuff.
Right.
Because I'm actually like, maybe we just don't trust the Holy Spirit enough to give us a sort of discernment. Because like sometimes people do say kind of odd stuff. But I never feel like sitting in one of those tables, I'm like, oh, yes, we all believe that now. Yeah. It's like the Holy Spirit does a good job allowing people to kind of wrestle with the text, and yet there's a truth point. There's not all truth isn't truth. There's still a I don't know if you've noticed that, but it helps me as a disciple because I can listen to your opinion and I don't have to like absorb it. Yeah. But I can absorb pieces that I know like the Spirit says like that is true. Have you noticed that?
I have. And I not only noticed it at your church, but also in my men's group. You got 15
anytime
guys.
You're in a community.
Right. Exactly. And it's so you going over that 13:7 through I can't remember now the 21 or whatever. Interesting to read all that and know what love was meant to be. Realize that Paul wasn't just talking about love. And then, I talked to a friend about it over coffee and he's like, but what if he was using love, place love with Jesus' name? Yeah. And then I brought that up at the table. I brought it up twice and the guy next to me I was like, hey, I talked about that last week. Don't bring it up again.
People's brain exploded. Yeah. What your buddy said at coffee, you might not even realize is that's theology that goes back to the Desert Father. It's like that is what they read and interpreted as, and they had framework for that. It's the best way to read it.
But you took it another step, and you said, I don't want to say above Jesus, but you took it another step and went, put your name in there. Todd is patient. Todd is kind. I was just like, can't even get past patient.
Right.
Because it's not a step further than Jesus, it's a step inward. Where you're like, okay, Jesus is the goal, but you and I could both nod and be like, yeah, Jesus is the goal. That's really sick for him. Exactly. But once I put Bryan in, I'm like, oh, shoot.
Yeah.
Like those things are just not adding up. And then it takes Jesus. So Jesus his whole life will be pursuing Jesus.
100%.
And the gap will always be far. But the gap, we're still moving. It's like we're closing the gap and we'll never get to it, but you're still making I think you are locked into your full potential when you are living out that love. And it's so challenging. I mean, we started so loneliness. We did a whole series on loneliness.
It was amazing and it was brave. And then all of a sudden I'm hearing things on the radio like people are, instead of avoiding customer service on the phone, people are actually calling customer service to have
human interaction.
Human interaction. And that blew my mind because the day before I'm laughing and joking with the lady on customer service and I'm like, holy crap.
Right.
Yeah, that's me.
I was like, man.
And so we did this conversation around friendship and loneliness. And then I was like, what I love for a church community is you got to take tension points that people would really feel in the city. So when we first started the church, we pulled all this data for Tacoma and we looked at like, what's the real problems that people said, which you could buy that data. Yeah. Demographics say. And the number one thing, this is like 2021, so it's during the pandemic. The number one thing people said above the housing crisis, above crime, all of it was that adults said, I don't feel like I have close personal friends.
Yeah.
So I was like, geez. So then I started asking the question, like, there's a lot of needs you can meet as a church. I feel like part of you could read the stories of Jesus and the disciples and the book of Acts and say, Jesus did feed people. So you can be a church and we're like, we just feed people.
Right.
But he also created networks of friendships. If hunger was the primary need in our city, the church would be activated and meet hunger. Now, hunger is a high need. Yeah. I just looked at that list and I was like, okay, if it's loneliness, let's start with that one. Yeah. And so I started asking the question, like, how would you help people get into relationships, which isn't novel. So we did this thing on friendships. And then I was like, okay, we gotta go the other end because this is kind of feels like a light end of the pool. If you were like, I came here to hear the Bible. And you're like, what are we talking about? Friendships and loneliness, right? So I'm like, let's flip it. Let's take another controversial, like not controversial, but like, let's take another thing that people could avoid and be like, let's take that on. And so a buddy texted me. He was like, dude, I just read like 1 Corinthians for the first time. It's crazy. What is this? Yeah. And he was like, 12 is just cool. Like, I liked it. And he's like, the spiritual gift part, blah, blah, blah. And so I was like, well, let's do this. We should do a whole like series on 12, which by the way, we like started tonight. Like I just did the first podcast on this morning.
And you did it backwards. We went through.
So he did it backwards because Paul gets to 13 and is like, guys, the freaking spiritual gift stuff is only matters if we talk about love. Like that's the whole destination. Yeah. So I was like, listen, guys, if we're going to dive into this, the way we got to start, let's do 4 weeks on 13 and drill in why we do this. And then let's get into the spiritual gift stuff and like what this is talking about because the picture of the body. Right. But I love what Paul does here on the concept of love because this is so much when we talk about love, in the church, in the culture, whatever, we're just missing any guts or teeth to it. And so you're like, how would you love somebody? And you're like, I just am like, Paul gives us a real list, and it's freaking hard.
Yeah.
And it would cost myself.
Yeah.
I would have to die to me.
Yeah.
And then what happens is you start a series like that, and then God will start giving you opportunities to love. And I'm like, gosh dang it, Todd, look at these. This is a hard one. Freaking A.
Yeah, no, it's great because we get that dynamic between what we got to do. You know, James talks about it, and James, you know, spiritual works without being spiritual is, you know, it's dead.
It's dead.
Yeah.
It's dead.
And then John talks about love, and if you don't love God, if you say that you love God but don't love others, then you're a liar. And so there's just like all these things, and then in John 1 it says God is love, and it's just like it blows your mind, you know, apart, because you're just like, I've been saying it wrong for 50 years of my life. I use love to get what I wanted. I use love to manipulate people,
move people.
Exactly. Yeah. I love pizza. I love, you know, but then do I really love when I say it to my kids or my wife or spouse or partner or whatever, am I giving her the right?
Yeah. What assumptions have I made? And then what expectations have I said yes to?
Right. And then, you know, when they say it back to you, then all of a sudden you're just like, whew, that's kind of heavy.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want
to hold it. Yeah.
Oh man. Oh, okay. This is real.
Or using love as a weapon as well. You know 100%, what I'm saying? So
100%. And we see it all the time.
Misconstrued. Yeah.
The manipulation part of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's where like this concept of, you know, Eskimos have like 1,000 words for snow.
Right.
This is great.
Which like their language is slightly different, so it could be like hyperbole, because you could like the way the like, you know, the language translates, whatever. It's like people use that to like point. Some people are like, well, that's not 100% true, but languages have more words for things that other languages don't, because of the characteristics of the nature of their environment. So Eskimos is just an example, but in that example, they do have more words for snow than we do, and so the idea being that like, you know, you and I, where'd you grow up?
I grew up in the Bronx.
You did?
Yes, sir.
How'd you feel about last night?
Yeah, we took it, baby. Game 5.
2026. Did you want more? I kind of wanted. Did you want to come back to the Garden for a win, or were you like,
oh man, that would have been a dream.
That would have been a dream. That last game was insane.
Yeah,
that was insane.
Yes, sir.
Brunson, I think, is the strongest leader in the
NBA. Yeah, OG too.
OG is. He's insane.
Yeah.
Bro, the game where he just like dropped 7 threes, and then that last just like boom,
yes, sir.
Like, okay. So you grew up in the Bronx, and like what was your childhood like growing up?
Oh man. So I had a pretty rough upbringing, a lot of shelters, you know, because of my mom's poor decisions in life, you know what I mean? And with that, caught with the wrong influences, being my older cousins, and got caught up in smoking weed when I was 9, into the streets, you know what I mean? So it was
but growing up in the Bronx, you were like outdoor city kid.
Yes, sir.
You're out a lot. You got a key to the house.
Latchkey kids.
Latchkey kid.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And you get a good amount of snow.
Oh yeah. Too much sometimes.
That's where you get a lot. That's too much. So your language might go further than mine, because you know he lived in Tacoma.
Right. Yeah, it's nothing.
That's nothing.
Yeah.
So my wife grew up somewhere with a lot of snow, and she's like, "This is not."
But you know, granted, I did. You know, I was in California for 14 years. You know what I mean?
Sure. So you got used to no.
Oh
snow.
Man, yeah.
So
you got babied by it.
My words for snow do tap out like around 15 words. Like I get maybe slush.
Yeah.
I'm like, but if you're somewhere that has a lot of snow, you will have just a more expansive vocabulary around snow, because it's a part of their environment and their focus of their behavior. Snow is a piece of their culture. That's a part of how we live our life. Okay. So for a society like ours, for the Western world, like the United States of America, for example, for how much we talk about love, you'd be surprised we only have, if you came in as aliens and you're just studying us, anthropologists,
right?
You'd be surprised we only have one word for it.
Yeah.
That would be surprised. You'd be like, well, I mean, you guys talk about it a lot.
Right.
You have one word. And like Todd said, like, I love my sons and I love tacos. And you'd be like, yeah, which one are you doing?
Yeah.
And so I just think as a society, it's kind of interesting if we have one word, then we really are stuffing a lot into that word.
Yeah.
And I read this a lot when I'm doing weddings for people, and that's not bad. They always pick it.
Yeah.
Or I'm not mad about it, but I'm just like, I think Paul, he wouldn't be mad about it. I think he'd think it's kind of funny. He'd be like, I mean, okay.
Oh, it's a bumper sticker now.
It's a bumper sticker. It's like an Etsy sign. And I think he was like, bro, this is like, because Paul's a freaking southpaw. Paul, like, if you go into temples, they're just hitting right. Paul is like, here's a left hand.
Yeah.
And they're like, whoa. And I think Paul in 1 Corinthians just like, pop, pop. And they like, that would have had enough teeth that would piss people off.
Oh, yeah.
And he'd see me in my suit just being like, love is patient. Love is kind. Like, that's funny, man. Like, I just didn't expect that. And so I imagine sometimes, and let's pull it all the way back to why Assembly started the way it did. I just thought, oh, geez, if I want somebody to not believe in Jesus, I want them to believe for the right reasons. Like, we have in our Western culture made Jesus like a mascot.
Yeah.
Right.
Jesus is the mascot of our thing more than we are disciples of his thing.
Yeah.
So we want Jesus to be on our side. It's like God made us in his image, and then we make God in ours.
Yep.
It's like Jesus becomes a mascot.
Yeah.
And then my neighbor who's
that.
like, you know, they're super smart. They're like a little bit skeptical. They're not dumb. They're not irreligious. They're just like, whatever, man. Mm-hmm. They look at that mascot, and then they look at the mascot's kind of arena, and they're like, this is not for me.
Yeah.
And so I thought, it's fine if you say it's not for you. I want you to understand the person that you're saying no to.
Yeah.
And then once you walk them through that person, dude, the Holy Spirit showed. There's no way the Holy Spirit doesn't show up. You sit there, half that room was literally like, I'm almost against church.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. Like the Sermon on the Mount. Are you kidding me? This is like human ethics beyond what I could imagine.
Right.
And so I just wanted to you can't unneuter something, I don't think.
No.
But I wanted to like re-teeth.
You can undo a vasectomy, right?
I guess before we get too deep into what the metaphors we're going to use.
I thought of my buddy Chris right away. He was like, oh, what did you do that for?
I want to get the guts back to it to be like, well, if you're going to say no, what do we actually say no to?
Right.
So I did two things. This was a principle that we wanted to see. And this is like, I think you guys probably do this in men's groups and community. I don't think this is like revolutionary. I just wanted to be a church that this was like the primary focus, because if you focus on everything, you focus on nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, you can be any kind of church out there. I'm just not going to be the Cheesecake Factory church.
Yeah.
And you know, like the menu's this thick, we've got everything. Yeah. I was like, dude, we do two things good. Like, I don't know. The rest is kind of fine. Don't order the burger. Like, but we got great tacos.
Yeah. I got snakes and sparklers.
Yeah.
That's all, guys.
So, and that's interesting you said that, because that's how I run the men's group is I send out a simple Bible verse and we discuss that Bible verse, just kind of like what you do, just so it's not too muddy. You know, we're not talking about 10 things at once, you know, and which is super simple, but super effective
for clarity and direction.
And people that I'm driving I'm like, oh man, I hope this gets some traction, this and that. And then when it's like,
God uses it,
oh man, I'm just amazed by how much traction just simple verse got. And so
can I say one thing though? Because I was about to say the two things we felt like for Assembly was we wanted to engage the curious follower of Jesus.
Yeah.
So if you do this without the second, you become what they called in the church world like seeker sensitive.
Yeah.
Which we're not that. I'm like, I don't want to be that. I don't want to put on a show for people who think church is cool.
Yeah.
But I want to engage people who are like, I'm kind of curious about this Jesus thing. But we do the second, which is challenge the committed follower of Jesus. So what I'm noticing primarily in the Western church is we don't get anybody off the bench. We're like,
100%,
the best thing I can get is like, Jesus is the mascot. The people who come are the cheer, like the arena, and then the game's about to start. And I'm like,
one of my favorite books, brothers, Not a Fan.
By Kyle Idleman. Yeah. That's a great book.
Yes.
That, and didn't you do one called like The Gods at War or something like that? Yeah. Those two are so good.
That book sucked.
Yeah.
It called me out the whole time. and then I read it listened to it a second time, and I hated it even more after that one.
No, but that's the concept is like, this isn't a spectator thing.
Absolutely.
No, yeah.
That's where the Fight Club comes into Assembly. It's like, bro, you're gonna have to fight. Like you're here, like what do you want to just like sit and watch?
Yeah.
You're gonna have to, and that's why this is probably part of my spirit, and someone's gonna tell me like we should stop doing it. But like assembly, I was like, yeah, either read it or don't ever come back. Like, do you want to be lonely or not? Like, it's probably my like challenger where I'm like, yeah, you can't complain about loneliness and not want to read with people. Like, you can't do both. And I was also like, you want to be interested in this Jesus thing. I'm not just going to talk at you about it. You freaking put your own, like, figure it out and then give me, I'm not going to argue your logic.
Right.
That's the part that people don't like is I'm not here to then be like, well, let's get into a debate about it. I just want to hear what people are holding on to.
Yeah. I think another part is that we also ignore the fact that God likes creativity, and that means that God also likes culture.
Yeah.
And so like we oftentimes say, oh, you can't do that because that's a different culture. That's a different culture. We don't do that here. Instead of welcoming it and being like, because I've been in a church where they would do like different meals for different places. Oh, we're having Mexican food this week, or we're doing Italian food this week, just to mix it up and have something different come in and have different cultures involved without sacrificing anything about our own beliefs, because it's just the creativity and like God makes snowflakes, each one different.
Yeah.
Why can't he make every person different? And why are we pushing each other into molds when we should be different?
100%.
Yes, and that's where the Spirit's gonna give out gifts. That's part of the cool part is we're not wired. And the body, there's a lot of different parts. I love Paul. I mean, so for the first 9 months, we didn't have a name for the church. We just called it Name This Church, and we put all our culture and beliefs and like paid for Instagram ads and just like people give us names, and like there's some crazy ones, but there's a lot of good ones. And we then put them in buckets of themes. And then just like literally brought a group of people together. And when we started the church, I'm going to say this anyway. I don't know who listens to the podcast, but someone might not like this. We wanted a team that was 50%. I don't like church. I'm not sure about church. I'm skeptical. And 50% that are like, I love Jesus.
Yeah.
Because I wanted all the data points I wanted all the stories and data from those. You're like, okay, if you're going to sit in our crowd, somebody came to church on Easter at assembly, like, man, you guys are so good at talking to the non-Christian. I'm like, no, we just are used to talking to people. Like we have no room that doesn't feel like someone's not in it being like, I don't quite believe that.
And that's the great thing about your church is it touches everybody. You could be a non-believer or skeptical, but your energy up there talking about things, it grabs people, and it's informational. You're actually learning about the Bible
something
verse,
that's challenging the follower of Jesus.
Exactly.
Get off the bench.
Exactly.
Follow me.
Right. Exactly. And what your church has done with the community, you give money to all these nonprofits, for abuse and Tacoma Rescue Mission. But the one thing that I always thought was fun about your church is the Saturday social. It's a group, your group, and they invite people, but it's not church. It's just community. You're not there preaching at them. You're there having a cup of coffee, eating some donut holes, some fruit, whatever. And people are having a great time. And I admired that. And even when I wasn't going as regular to church, I always made sure I was at the Saturday social because I enjoyed that space. And I'm even going to have one next month.
I'm excited.
Excited to have you.
Sick house. The Saturday social. Okay, keep going.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, so that kind of came out of this idea that's like, okay, we're going to create different pockets for like, how do you help people into spiritual formation and how do you help them grow? But then also, how do you create, one of the things, the principles of assembly was like radical hospitality. The early church was so good at it. And so the radical hospitality doesn't come from the institution.
Right.
That's where it's like, dude, we're not in the, I've been, it's fine. I've worked at churches and you're like, dude, we're not running a Marriott. Like this is like, we've stripped the word of its beauty in the West by making it corporate.
Yeah.
We've CEO'd hospitality.
Yeah.
So church's hospitality is for every believer comes alive in their gift to be hospitable to the person. So the word hospitality means,
I don't know,
love of stranger.
Okay.
Love of stranger, to love the stranger.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if we're going to be like radical in hospitality, so the early church, they were just wildly hospitable in their home, their money, their gifts. That generosity wasn't like, it was so holistic. They're like, how do we give everything? And they were hospitable in ways that surprised the early world, took them off guard. And there's some early quotes coming out of scholars who are not followers of Jesus, who are like, those Christians, they just give everything to love those who are against them.
Yeah.
And you're like, that is so radical.
Yeah.
But it changed the world. It changed the way the world worked. And, even like you think about part of the reason the church grew so rapidly was the church, when the plagues were ripping through Roman cities, you got these, plagues are just like a horrible disaster that's just coming through.
Yeah.
The church is the one going in while everyone else is going out. Yeah. The Romans thought they were magicians. I mean, the Romans didn't know what to call Christians because they're like, you don't worship at a temple. Like, this doesn't make sense. And then they thought they were magicians. They thought they were magic because Christians came in. Christians deeply believed in the dignity of people created in God's image.
Yeah.
So they believed that every person dying was still a person created in God's image, whether they believe the same thing or not.
Yeah.
So now you have a group of people coming into a city. Okay. So the Christians were giving high dignity. I am serving this person like I'm serving Christ. So what do you do when you give somebody high dignity and a plague's going through? Well, initially they thought these people need to be able to have their own space, because what Rome would do is just pile bodies on top of bodies, whether you were alive or dead.
Yeah.
In the street. Like, you got the plague. They're like, you have basically deceased at this point.
Yeah.
Christians are like, no, we are going to do last rites.
Yeah.
We are going to pray with you. We're going to serve you. We're going to wash you.
Yeah.
And because washing of the feet and caring for people was such a high regard, what they would do is they would find people who were sick. They would give them space, a bed, a room. They would care for them. They would regularly wash them and bathe them and pray over them. Well, you know what's kind of funny about plagues is they're transferable by germs. A virus moves by germs. Isn't it interesting that when you separate bodies and you separate people who are sick, kind of funny how their germs start passing? Oh, isn't it interesting that when you really care for them and wash them, the germs go down? Yeah. So this is actually where we get early. Hospitals come out of early followers of Jesus. And so what would happen in Roman cities is people would be living, like these cities would be thriving. Yeah. And so the historic world looked at them and was like, oh, they're magicians.
Yeah.
They're like, they're
raising the
healing
dead.
people. And some of it was literally just germs.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't know germs because they didn't have the technology to see germs. And so like it would be magic to them.
Yeah.
But it would seem to us, it's basic everyday hygiene.
Yes, everyday hygiene.
Them, that was like, what? What do you mean?
You just Jesus are like, listen, I don't know if it's the Holy Spirit or the dignity I gave them, but they are fine. And then God's like, it's almost built into the circuitry of everything. Yeah. So when we looked at Saturday Social for us was, churches can do a lot of different things. We wanted to be great at being radically hospitable. So I just got to as one of the parts of the lead, which guys, I don't know. I'm probably screwing this all up, but I like to say I'm on the team at Assembly. That's how I introduce myself at Assembly. Because I'm like, the Assembly is.
You're not the only guy. we know of a guy here who don't like titles either, brother.
I'm not anti-title. I think that if I get to use the word pastor, then the three of you better too.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't get that, and you don't. Right. So that part I don't like.
Yeah.
So I just like to say I'm on the team at Assembly, but my wife and I founded the movement of Assembly. And when we started doing Saturday Socials, really it came out of the concept that I probably was less interested in the people who emerged. I knew the city would emerge. I knew people would bring their neighbors. I was most interested in training the hospitable. I wanted to force people to open up their homes. And I wanted them to be a little bit nervous.
Right.
I wanted people to not like it and be like, well, why would I have people over? And be like, we're all trying to get coffee. It's really obnoxious because coffee shops are packed. Would you host coffee in your living room? And I wanted people to be like, not in my living room.
Yeah.
And I was like, bingo. Because
it's a big deal.
Gosh, this is the big deal for me. This is where I get emotional. I want a church where every color, tribe, age, and every sized house gets to be hospitable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We live in a broken world.
That's so good, brother.
I'm in the top 5%.
Yeah.
I've done well. I have a hospitable home, so I get to be hospitable.
Yeah.
So
we have stripped the right of the poor to be hospitable and show up to their place.
Right.
I would rather a church where the lowest of the low in their apartment complex opens their door and those with the mansions go in are like, this is so beautiful, than a church where one person with a mansion always hosts everything.
Oh, 100%.
Well, it makes me think of this Bible story where I forget I think Zechariah, where he climbs up a tree and like he's like Zacchaeus, yeah. The story of Zacchaeus where like it's a small guy and everyone looks over him, looks down on him. And Jesus is like, we're going to your place.
Your house. That's exactly
right.
The invite's in my mail. She's just about to go like, it's a tax collector party was the thought for the Saturday social. Yeah. Was Jesus keeps showing up at Matthew's house and Zacchaeus' house where all the religious are like, and they're like, no, this is the cookout. This is the barbecue.
Yep.
And what does Zacchaeus do there? He's like, listen, I'm giving away everything. Like this is changing everything about who I believe I am.
Yeah.
And so Todd hosting Saturday social for me isn't like, that's cool, it's nice, it's a church thing. I'm like, we just revolutionized Todd's house is on mission. Todd's heart opened up his doors when I don't know like what your story is, how you host people, but like that is not a small step. And we just transformed how a neighborhood block could be a place to invite to Todd's house.
And it's a thanks to Brian Tinner. When we went over to his house, I had the sense that he was going to be a little nervous because he's pretty, he's pretty private. And so I showed up a little bit early to hang out with Clay and Jamie, and all of a sudden I'm sweeping off his deck and helping him, and then we're praying on his deck because he's nervous about having and then at that moment is like, I got to do a Saturday social, and got a hold of Clay, and I was like, put me on the list for let's do it in the summertime so everybody can be out in the backyard and this and that, and I invited all my close friends to come, and hopefully they'll be there. And I think it's a great idea. It's a great idea to get to know people. And it's amazing to me that you guys came up with that. Get people, when you have people come over to your house, that person is being vulnerable.
You're vulnerable.
Oh, yeah. You're opening up your house
vulnerable
to strangers in a sense. You only know them at church, blah, blah, So all of a sudden,
or strangers, neighbors. So you're like, I don't even know this person.
Exactly.
So then, friends
of friends?
Can I give you one more on the strategy?
Yeah.
Okay. So then, let's paint this picture because this is where assembly is going. So if you want to do assembly, you're going to choose a longer road, right? You can launch a church predominantly quicker. We could have done it differently, like rent out these things, get the sound equipment, do the thing. I was like, we want to pick a slower road to start with more chance for growth down the road, right? Because if I buy a building that can fit 200 people, I just capped myself at 200 people with how many gatherings can I have? What can that team? I'm always going to be looking at like, well, I don't want to burn the team out. What's the line right under burning the team out? Okay, we've got to have this. We're going to have 8 gatherings. We bought the building. Okay, let's just say we just transformed every coffee shop into our building.
Yeah.
Oh, geez, my parking issues go down. Wait, but then who's going to be in those spaces? Or we're going to video Bryan in? No. Do you see how Saturday social then is a missional opportunity to train up? At some point, someone's going to sit at assembly. I'm just telling you now and go, I actually think I'm supposed to start one of these.
Yeah.
I want to do it with the floor so low that someone's like, this guy's like no equipment. Like how much I could do this.
Yeah.
We don't have any game where someone shows up. This is an overstatement, but primarily in the Western church, we don't show up at church and the average person's like,
I can do this. Yeah.
I can do this.
There's no way.
Right.
There's no way. You're like, well, it's probably paid professional does this.
Yeah.
So I have to do blah, 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 blah. The early church would sit there and be like, do this.
Yeah.
With the team, with the Holy Spirit, with training, with apprenticeship. But in assembly, I want to be at the place where, and we're trying to figure it all out. But I think at some point in Tacoma, we will lease a space. I think it's a freaking warehouse. I'm just going to say it in Jesus' name.
Yeah.
It's in somewhere that just like no one wants to be.
Yeah.
It'll be a warehouse. I don't think people call it the church. I think people have a reason to go to it Monday through Friday. That's like open door. So it's like a coffee shop. There's something in there that people are like, I just go there. I didn't even realize the church rents it from the church. Like the church is like, we're here on Sunday, but this has another mechanism that's good for the city. Yeah. I think it meets needs. I think it does a bunch of stuff. Then I think that every year we're like, okay, where are the next 2 pop-ups we can try out? And you look at places on a map and you're like, well, they've done some Saturday socials that were bangers.
Yeah.
That'd probably be a good place. Oh, look at that. So-and-so owns that CrossFit gym. I wonder if that'd be a good place for assembly.
Yeah.
I want people to fail. I want the year to be like, oh, so many people failed. And it was so good because we learned so much. Jesus is always sending the disciples out before they're ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they keep coming back and being like, it didn't go so well.
Yeah.
Some of it went well.
Yeah.
Some of it went well. There was one demon we could not get out.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, that's golly, I forgot to tell you guys. Prayer and fasting. There's some. And then you're like, Jesus is always working them. And I think that's what a church has to feel like.
Yeah.
And so I'm uniquely wired. You know, we're going to go into chapter 12. And chapter 12 it has a lot about Paul. Paul's so funny. He's a funny writer. He's just throwing out spiritual gifts in all sorts of letters. He's like, here's these ones, here's these. The lists don't totally match because Paul never thinks of himself as writing theology.
Mm-hmm.
He's writing to people. So he's just naming spiritual gifts. He's like, some of these, some of these, some of these, and which I love because some of the spiritual gifts are on the paper. Some of them you have and aren't on there, but they're spiritual gifts. Are they the resurrected Jesus in your story? Showing up in a way that you were uniquely wired for the benefit of somebody else. Boom, there's your spiritual gift.
Yeah.
So, but Paul does something unique in Ephesians 4, where he talks about, I would call these not spiritual gifts, I'd call them archetypes. These are foundational kind of characteristics. Mm-hmm. And he names what people shorthand as the APEST. The apostolic, prophetic, evangelistic, shepherd, teacher. You don't not get any of them.
Yeah.
You don't get all of them.
Right. But
Okay, so have you guys ever done this where you try and pinpoint yours?
Yeah. So we've done it in at a life center.
Okay. So I want to hear though. But what are you?
So I got I think I did end up getting shepherd, administrative, which was good. Yeah. So that I don't know that would fall under.
Okay, that's administrative. So probably what you did. There's a list off of 1 Corinthians 12 that adds administrative.
Okay.
In Ephesians, he just gives those 5. So I like that you have administrative. Good for you.
Yeah,
that's great. Okay, what'd you get?
Discernmentship.
Okay.
And a shepherdship, which I was also like going back to my leadership, the titles. I'm like, man, I'm never gonna do that.
Yeah.
And then, but
okay, would you take it?
Yeah.
What'd you get?
I got a lot of them, but because a lot of them are really high, and so it's kind of hard.
Yeah.
To,
okay, Matt.
But the top,
which
top. Which
one did you like?
The top 3 I ended up assigning to the thing was discernment, teaching, and prophetic.
Cool. Okay. I love that. So what you guys did take was a really good test. It's pulling from 1 Corinthians 12, which is great, and I think it's helpful. That's kind of giving you what I would call is the fruit of your spiritual gifts.
Right.
What Paul gives in Ephesians is more like your core. That's why he only gives a couple. It's like, this is your archetype. This is like, I don't know, you're what's the word I'm looking for? The game. I was gonna say World of Warcraft. That's not right. Give me the freaking we were talking about fantasy game.
Fantasy. Yeah.
Yeah. What's the
medieval?
Yeah, but what's the game that you play where you've got the board?
Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, do you play Dungeons and Dragons?
Yeah.
Dungeons and Dragons, you know how there's some characters have archetypes, right?
Yeah.
Like this person is a blank.
You have a rogue, but then you have subclasses.
Yeah. Okay.
So
I would say 1 Corinthians 12 might be more like subclasses.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Ephesians list is this is just what you are, which I can send you guys there's a great test, that APES test. What has happened? Do you guys want to nerd out on this for a second, or you want to move on?
No,
go ahead.
Yeah.
This is what we're. So I was hoping that it would be every bit of this.
So something's happened in the last 100 years where you look at. So let's do it for a second. What do we know about teachers? What do?
They teach.
Yeah, they help. They have strong sense of discernment, wisdom, a sense of the God's voice and how to disciple, and the voice of Yahweh through the Old Testament and Jesus. They don't have to be. Teachers aren't always the most knowledgeable.
Right.
They're the ones that are really good at explaining it.
Yeah.
That they're not. Actually, the blind spot of the teacher is the academia.
I like how you said they're not very knowledgeable, because that's the difference between knowledge and wisdom.
That's what is the ability to be
to apply.
I actually don't even know if I know that stuff. Sometimes some of the teachers I know, you have high teaching.
Well,
you have it. You've got some level of teaching.
Yeah.
But some of the best teachers ask really good questions.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yes,
so it's just the ability to create clarity for steps. And that's what teaching is.
Okay.
We think, gosh, we're so Western. We just teaching is information.
Yeah.
But think about
I see it like this: is that teaching is Because they say that a good teacher is someone that's a good student first. And that because it's essentially like you're saying, it's the steps, and so you learn something, and then you're like excited because you learned it, and you turn and you tell someone else.
Yes. That's what a great teacher is. A great teacher is that character.
Yeah.
And I mean, I just think this could be just for Bryan, and I don't know, you take it for what it is, but I think a great teacher doesn't teach you what to think, but how to think. That's what I think. Great teachers teach you how to think. And so the great teacher of Legos is less build the Death Stars, more like, let me show you how these bricks work.
Yeah.
And so that's the teacher. Okay, shepherd does what?
Leads.
Yeah, he oversees, he protects the herd.
I would say it's kind of like
feeds, waters.
Kind of like facilitates and like make sure everyone can work as a team and as a whole.
So the shepherd tends to care about the sheep.
Yeah.
The shepherd tends to protect the sheep. The shepherd tends to care for the needs of the sheep. The shepherd is somebody who cares about the relationships, how it feels with the sheep, what people are feeling, sensing, needing. That's high shepherding. Okay? They can lead from the front, although a lot of shepherds I know lead from the back.
Yeah.
A lot of shepherds I know aren't the front-facing person. Some of them are. Okay, so then we've got evangelistic. What's evangelistic?
Preaching, spreading the word.
Yep.
The
evangelist tends to be the rallier.
Right. Okay.
Evangelist is the one. Yeah, there's communication as a part of it. They don't have to be charismatic in the personality, but they better be woo in their. They better have some win you over in their charisma. So they do have charisma, but it might not be. They could be an introvert.
Yeah.
But you just have a sense of being like, this person helps get me connected.
Yeah.
I feel connected to Jesus. I feel connected. Gosh, this church is something about it. Usually it's the high evangelist. The high evangelist also thinks like, how do I get all the parts of the body communicating with each other? That person, the high evangelist, will be like, man, we got to get this thing like in sync together. That's what the evangelist cares about. Then you've got the prophet. What does the prophetic care about?
The future,
the direction.
Yeah,
like where
I would say direction. The future comings.
The deep knowledges.
Yeah, can I give you?
I would pipe in, but I don't know what they do.
Yeah. Okay, so I try to give them an order of the easiest to answer. Like I just think like prophetic. We're like, I mean, they say cool stuff about the future. Like,
Nostradamus.
Got it. Let's keep moving.
Nostradamus.
So, can I give you guys a really clear one that I think is really helpful?
Yeah.
This is from Scripture. Take any prophet. This is what I think of when it comes to a prophet. The prophet is the clearest. The prophet has a spooky ability to hear the clear voice of the servant of God.
Man.
It primarily does not have to do about future orientation, present orientation. I understand the covenant we have made with God. I know what's God's will and covenant, and I understand it. Because I understand it, I want to communicate it. The prophet sometimes is ability to communicate into the future because it's like pattern recognition. It's like, gosh, guys, this is what the covenant's having. If we get to this point, this is what God said would happen. Like, this is hard to bear. The healthy prophet, an unhealthy prophet just comes off as negative and condescending.
Right.
Because they sound like an unhappy consultant.
Yeah.
Right.
They're like God's consultant, and everybody's like you just sound like you're way up here.
And they reading off of a script. And
they sound angry.
Yeah.
Okay, a healthy prophet can still be angry. In Scripture, they sound like they're weeping.
Yeah.
They're feeling the pain. They're
Jeremiah.
like, gosh, this hurts my heart.
Yeah.
Like,
David.
I sat with this and it just hurts me. And because of that, like Nehemiah has this great line where he's like, I didn't even cause this. This is the sin of our parents.
Yeah.
And yet I just bleed out for it because I just don't like the way it is.
Yeah.
A healthy prophet's able to see it, feel it. I think the prophet's given the gift to, like, not in a crazy way, but I think if 50% is what we can see and 50% is what we can't, I think the prophet's like, I've seen under there a couple times. Like, I think the prophet's like has a kind of beyond this dimension, but in a way that feels like, I don't know, I just had this dream, or like I had this sense. Okay, so then apostolic, let's define it.
Which one? What was it?
We're to apostolic.
I don't have no clue. I mean,
no clue.
Okay. Yeah. Mike, you want to throw anything in?
Mikey has it.
Okay, so we're gonna want to. I'm gonna save apostolic for a second. So we're gonna want to. This is what the Western Church. We just are like, I don't know.
I mean, because I understand it as far as like the
apostles,
right?
Yep.
Okay, absolutely for the apostles.
But now give it to me as like something that you could have. You're like,
well, that I don't know, because from my understanding of the apostolic Christians, you know, that type of religion that they do, they're like very strict. You know, they can't wear their skirts have to be above
below their knee.
Very traditional.
Yeah, it's traditional.
Yeah, we'll grab any word and make it like traditional. Yeah.
Right.
So
for some reason, like ADHD was like messing with me there. So, from my understanding of apostolic, it's like getting things started is like what I've been led to believe. It's like, you know, they start a church and go, okay, you guys got it flowing here. All right, time for me to move on to someone else, and it's essentially what Saul was doing, or Paul.
Yeah.
You know, it's like starting a church and then like getting connected, and like, okay, cool, I'm going to move on over here now and like start, you know, helping out this church over here, and like, you know, just kind of like a corporate manager in a sense.
Should Mike lead assembly? I don't think I should be here. I should be doing the editing. Yeah. So I guess what Mike said again is the exact definition of
Let's go.
Well, so, okay, let's pause. He has a lot of open screens over here. So,
you can take a look. I mean,
okay, so
no, that's Mikey for you.
He's Googling everything.
You're like, how did you get into Brian's email?
No,
Okay, so that's the apostolic. So we do this. Paul has a line where he says, listen, the apostolic and the prophets go first. It's not saying they're not most important. They're point of the spear. They're like getting on the mission. Okay. So we have done something in the last 100 years, which I think, one, we have lowered the value of apostolic and prophetic in the church.
Mm-hmm.
Two, we have primarily turned the role of pastor or leader or person who's helping. I mean, I think a church should have leadership. I don't think it's all flat. I mean, I'm just like, church needs leadership, right? People are like, well, it's just flat. You're like, sure, at the foot of the cross, yes, but there should be some sense of like direction, right?
Yeah.
So we have primarily turned that role into two parts of the five.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you ask me, like, Brian, how do you spend your time? And you're like, I'm a pastor. What do I do? And you're like, well, I think you meet with people and you talk to them on Sunday. Like you're the shepherd teacher. We have turned the whole church into the shepherd teacher.
Yeah.
So what happens if we leave these out and we just have shepherd teacher? Oh, it's going to feel really cozy.
Yeah.
Oh, you're cared for. It's comfortable. Golly, it is. If this feels great, well taught, a lot of good theology. We know a lot of right answers. But you will have none of the disruptors.
Right.
Which the disruptors are not disrupting because of angst. They may be angsty. They're disrupting because the mission of Jesus calls for it. So which one of these is Jesus?
He's all of them.
He's all of them.
Yeah.
He's all of them. Jesus has all of these, and you can point to stories with all of them.
Yeah.
He disseminates through the resurrected spirit into us and forces us to work together. None of us gets all of them. So we have to work as a body. Because it's like, dude, you're high in this. I'm super. So,
and that's the other thing is like you see pastors all strung out because they're taking on 3-4 roles on their own, and they're like, you know, I have to do this because that's what I'm the one that's leading the church.
Right. And God keeps being like, you have people.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're like, well, this job is so hard.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, maybe you suck at shepherding and you should hand that off to somebody.
Right.
Pass the sticks.
Pass it off. And so, okay.
And that's true too, because they live in those two things, right? The comfortability of their pastorship. And as soon as a problem comes up, the church falls apart because they don't know how to
steward that well.
Yeah.
Right.
A person comes up to them going, I'm in a lot of trouble. This is what happens. They're like, oh, this is breaking up my routine and my comfort.
Totally. And then what you have is the data will show we're not launching anything because we're just comfortable in our little thing.
Yeah,
but the things are splintering because a body was made to move.
Right.
And so what happens if our bodies just sit and we don't do anything?
Yeah. They get sick.
We get sick.
You get fat.
Bed sores. Yeah.
The same thing happens with the church.
Yeah.
If you're just shepherding people, which is great. We need shepherds.
Yeah.
You're lazy, man.
We get lazy.
Yeah.
The body of the church was made to move.
Right.
The muscle of the church. So when I think of this is Brian's, and you can make it better because I got to use it for this next series. You guys can be like, that sucks. My thought right now for how Paul puts this together, I mean, this is me, so make it better. I think when we look at the body, all 5 of those roles. So the apostolic, the one who sees, who's like, that's pioneering. We have that spirit. We got to go get it. Okay. Paul says those 2 are the front of the spirit, not the most important, but you better get them in the front.
Yeah.
Because they're going to, the prophet's going to hear the voice of God. Yeah. That apostle's going to be like, and there's the people. The apostle's always looking for who's not there. Yeah. Unreached and who's not there. So if it's a body, I think the teachers are the skeletal system. They hold the body together. You need great teaching. You need firm foundation, clear theology. You need to have that thing locked in. Yeah. No skeleton, no person.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So that's the shape of it. I think if you're going off of I think the shepherds are the nervous system. Okay. Yeah. So here's why is your nervous system, what it helps you actually do is calm down. It's trying to.
Yeah.
Why your nervous system isn't working right is you've got a lot of outside stuff that's causing your nervous system to be like, I can't calm down.
Yeah. Right.
The shepherds are in the community to help rest and digest and hold on to the spirit of what Jesus is doing and disciple and have small groups and take care of each other. The shepherds are looking at the body being like, I want to help you be restorative. Okay. That's the job of a shepherd. What happens if a shepherd doesn't have that happening or is undervoiced? They get anxious.
Yeah.
They get depressed.
Right.
And they're like, we're not doing any of the stuff that we should be doing.
Right.
You can have a body that is highly active and lifting a lot of weights and is very high cortisol and very anxious.
And then if you are a shepherd role and when Kenny and I had this conversation yesterday, we're guys like Kenny and we're not used to being in this community where people are caring for us and looking out for our well-being and making sure that we're okay. We keep everything bottled up and we keep moving on and we just keep storing those things, storing those things because we've never had an outlet. Yeah. We've never had a men's group where we can go and or cry it out. I have all these powerful men in my men's group and I've seen every single one of them burst out in tears because they can't.
Yeah, they have a safety net.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so that's good. Can I speak into that for a second?
Absolutely.
Because part of that, there's 2 things happening. One, I would say, is a great growth moment. The other is like you actually have discernment.
Right.
Discernment when you're shepherding and you're in a position of like, hey, I'm trying to bring a culture of shepherding.
Yeah.
You can't air out your dirty laundry every time or people like, this is just unhealthy.
Right.
So sometimes that's your actual
therapy session here.
Did you guys create therapy for yourself?
And we do have a couple of those guys.
So like as the leader, you're guarding that culture. But the other side is you are the same way. If you have a nicer home than me, and you're like, hey, come to my house, and then you never give me the opportunity to invite you to my house, you're actually like not allowing me to use my hospitality.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You're actually when you don't take a moment to step into the vulnerability that you are inviting others as a shepherd, you're not allowing them to bring their shepherding.
You're diminishing
You're diminishing their shepherding gift.
Right.
So the shepherding system's got that nervous system for the whole body of the church, and it helps regulate it.
And there's when people invite people over to the house, there's always that judgment rolling around in your head. Oh man, my house ain't. I've been over to his house a million times. Yeah. I never want to go over to bring him over to my house because it has 1 bathroom and they have 10 bathrooms. But that's not the case.
The beauty of when you do, and everyone's like, oh, I love this place. Like, you got such a cool spot, man. And then you're like, oh wait, nobody cares.
Yeah, exactly.
But it creates the intention of a culture.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so you go shepherd teacher. I think when you go evangelist, I think they're the circulatory system.
Yeah.
So the blood pumps and it's getting blood of the whole body. The evangelist, I'm married to one. My wife is like off the charts.
I'm thinking the spinal cord, because like if they're communicating back and forth and making sure that everyone is in communication, that's what the spinal cord does.
That's probably better. Okay.
It holds it. It holds all that.
It holds the communication. Anyway, they're the most connected to the whole body, which is maybe the spinal cord, and they're holding all the nerve endings, and they also are how does the spinal cord interact with the heart?
That's a good question. I don't know.
That's where my circulatory system works. The evangelist is able to take the apostolic's vision and be like, good stuff. we're going to move it out. We're going to get it. And apostolic by themselves has dead fingers because they're like, we can't move any of this stuff. And so the evangelist is the one that's able to be like, great, I love that. Don't actually talk anymore because we got enough and we're going to move it over here. And now we're going to move this thing. Evangelists would work like that, which could still be this way. The prophet, I think, is the immune system. Yeah. Because all the prophets I know, they work like the immune system. Immune system's great. They're just shiny achievement in your body is they're protecting you from the bad stuff. Yeah. The prophets have the ability to see God, what God sees, and it's like, that will not help us. That will not help us. Do not worship other gods. Yeah. And the immune system. Yeah. Good news, bad news. If it gets dysregulated, if you get a glitch in your system, what does it start to do? It attacks yourself. It attacks the body. What happens if you get a bunch of restless prophets? No one listens to them, or you have unhealthy prophets who haven't gone through their own reconciliation. They're going to only attack the church. They're attacking the body. Now you have an autoimmune disease. You want healthy prophets who can see the outside force of like this. We don't fight against flesh and blood. We fight against principalities that are powers and principalities. That's a healthy prophet. They are weeping over the hurt that they see, and yet they are not saying, I'm a consultant. They're saying, I'm on the team. I will stay. I will not leave, and I will help solve this problem. Wow. Then you go apostolic. I think the apostolic is the heart, not out of its position being higher, just the fact the blood just comes out of it. Apostolic, just bleed out. These are missing people. You know, I was getting like almost emotional, but not quite. Watching, my daughter was sick last week, and she's 6, and we were watching Moana. We watched 1 and 2 back to back, and I'm like, that's the apostolic. Because she's talking to her dad, and he's like, isn't this village good enough? Voice of a shepherd. What else do you need? And she keeps going, there's people out there and we have to get them connected. That is the apostle. The apostle cannot help. The restlessness is like, they're there. We have to do something, and it has nothing to do with the village.
Also, like, if you have to get somewhere quickly, the heart makes sure that the legs have the blood it needs to run.
Pump it out. Totally. So, as I've been thinking about, and I'm going to wrap this up. This is so fun with you guys. I just feel like I'm going way too long. The part that I think is so important when you look at all those tests or all those pieces is the early church had them, was empowered by them, knew them, and then was functionally wired to be able to say, okay, as prophets and apostles are coming, we've got to be able to apprentice them to be able to see the future and send them.
Absolutely.
And then, so I started giving everyone we're going to give everyone an assemblance test, which you guys have already done a version of this test. Isn't it like foundational stuff? I just like those 5 because it gives you the archetype. Everything flows out of that, right? Because you could be apostolic, but still be able to have a healing or, just these different pieces, right? And so we're going to give everyone the test. We're going to do a 1 day. We do these things called Bring Your Questions, where we take a Saturday morning and you bring whatever you want. Like, the unhinged, the better. Bring it all. And we just
Mikey's like, I'm there.
And dude, the Christians always bring the wildest stuff. That is wild. And then, you get somebody who's never heard of faith. They're like, what's grace? And you're like, I love it, man. Get on board. And then the Christians are the ones being like, should we have Christmas trees? And you're like, okay. I'll write it on the board. But we fill them up on the board. And then we just try and like either keep some that you're like, it's too good of a question, keep it as an anomaly, or some of these like, these all are about this. And then we just go like second hour is like, let's hit it. And we just have a panel of people. Right. And then you kind of chop it up. Well, we're going to do one just on your spiritual gifts. The first half you come, bring whatever you want. We'll be like, because there's going to be points to the series where we're like just going to not stop to do 80 minutes on speaking on tongues.
Right.
Yeah.
We're not.
Yeah. No.
But someone's going to show up hoping we are.
Yeah.
And I want to be like, hey, bring your questions. Let's talk about what speaking in tongues in light of Jesus. And all my friends who are new to Jesus were like, what is that? Like, I don't know what you're talking about. But we should still chop it up. So we're going to do that. The second half, we're going to have everybody take the APES test and then talk about your results.
Yeah.
So you all come and are like, boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
What I want to see is I've already given it to 50 people at assembly just to see, like, people who show up to a team meeting. I'm like, take this test real quick. So I'm looking at it and I'm like, we're already leveraged in a good, healthy way. Why? Because everyone's like, we all got like 20 apostles, 20 prophets, like, No, because it's really lopsided. Why would you want it lopsided? Because if the evangelist and prophet are doing their jobs, more people are coming in community.
Yeah.
You know what doesn't help more people? more prophets in apostolic calling out more vision. You just got more people being like, dude, there's a lot of blood getting pumped out. Like, what do we do?
Right.
You want an absurd number of shepherds and teachers.
Yeah.
Because that will balance people coming.
Yeah.
You have too many prophets, you're like, this place is wild. But what do we take care of each other? So assembly, what I want to see, what I want to start to look at, if we're going to have more assemblies, which I was like, let's take 5 years and do it so slow so you can do it more years fast. Because we're not a franchise. We're not Burger King. We're like, this is organic.
Right.
Yeah.
This is organic stuff. What I want to see is you just start to notice, like, okay, you're a really high shepherd. You're a really high prophet. You're really high apostolic. Golly, you guys would make a sick team. What if you take that group and you start having them practice a Saturday social together?
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. They like each other. Oh, look at that. Now we've got more shepherds that are starting to ask questions. Oh, a lot of them are young adults. Oh, we're getting some like old dogs in here.
Yeah.
You want to see the diversity? You don't send all the apostles. That's so unhealthy. You're not going to have homeostasis.
Yeah.
You just look for little tribes emerging.
Yeah.
But when you do send or you launch something else, you better make sure you got 4 shepherds for every 1 apostle. Because someone's going to have to hold on to this.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's going to come all back to the one leader in charge, and they're going to be like, I can't do all of this.
Yeah.
Someone's got to hold back the apostles sometimes, you know.
So
I'm down a little.
You guys want to guess what I am? Okay, you guys know my first one. You get 2. You guys know my first one. Guess.
I have to say you definitely are apostle.
It's very high. It's like 50. It's a way up there. I have a second one. I think it helps me. It could hurt me in the future, which is high teacher. Because I can see the vision and try to explain it to you. Okay, so the teacher has their own short sights, blind spots. Do that in another episode. Apostle has their blind spots. What I have to surround myself with is a sharp prophetic voice. Because it's like, dude, are you tuned in with? Because I can see this. I can see the people. I need the person who's like, have you talked to God about that? And you're like, that's correct, your spirit. I also have to surround myself with good shepherds.
Yeah.
Because I will get in the place where people will look at like a document, like, this sounds like cool stuff. Did you know he lost his job?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I don't have to be, none of us have to be the best at any of them, but we better surround ourselves with good ones and be competent.
Yeah. And you picked a good one, Clay, because he'll know everything about everybody in 5 minutes.
Do you know how Clay tested? Have you seen?
No, I haven't.
He's off the charts prophetic.
Oh yeah.
Off the charts.
Oh yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Fun conversation.
I bet you guys do.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so that's that was a lot to describe assembly, who I am, a story. I hope that was like at least interesting.
Man,
I would
have to say, Bryan, hands down, our best episode.
Number 10?
I promise you, brother.
I like that.
We hardly even got to speak, so
sorry, I feel
that.
bad.
No, that I am 100% okay with that, brother.
Real quick, I want to touch on this story blew my mind when you and your wife are driving down the road. She goes, I want to sell everything and start a church up. You had your whole life in a storage unit. People were coming, buy it. You were like, oh yeah, this served us well. We really love this. We love this painting. We love whatever, so on and so forth. What in the world were you guys thinking? When I heard the story, I go,
yeah.
Does that make me less of a Christian because God hasn't called me to do that? Am I a bad person for going, I'm not going to do that?
Well, I want to start with that. I want to start with that before my story because that's really interesting. I think, all right, I think there's a very weak case to be made that being a follower of Jesus means you are poor.
Yeah.
We've tried that in the movement of Jesus. We've been like, no, I'm going to take a vow of poverty.
Yeah.
Fine. I think some people do decide to do that. That's not bad.
Yeah.
Jesus does say something that's like, fox has no home, like,
poor.
And blessed are the poor. I actually do think you're more, I think Jesus is like, yeah, I mean, you can have whatever you want. You're going to have more fun if you have less. But I think sometimes Jesus is thinking that, but that doesn't mean we don't create. You can create a lot of value or worth and not have to have a lot.
Yeah.
No.
And you could still have nicer things than somebody else. Jesus
More is
isn't like
less.
Jesus is not thinking
It's
through like
subjective.
it's subjective, right? Like
100%.
Jesus, I don't think Jesus is like, you can't have that nice house.
Right.
What I do think. All right, you guys want to go deep into the pool for a second? Yeah, you guys want to ruin this episode really quick? Do you guys want to take all the fun we've been having and then just wreck it? Do you guys want to have to? Do you guys want to
Go
have
for
to?
it.
Do you guys want to be like?
We can always edit it later.
You guys want to be like, oh, shoot, I was going to text this episode to somebody, but not anymore. All right, let me present this idea for a second. There's an author. So Rodney Stark is one of my favorite authors. He was a sociologist in the 80s, and he started some of that, like, it's a little bit kind of cliche, but it's the idea that's like, wasn't a follower of Jesus, started deeply studying Jesus. Okay? So kind of like a C.S. Lewis, but he did it from a different angle. He was a sociologist. He just found it fascinating in his research, people movements, and he thought the church was a really interesting people movement because it breaks a lot of the rules and just it spreads at such a large level. He starts to write a book that is academic. It's a great book. It's completely worth reading, called The Rise of Christianity. It comes from an unbiased approach, just like how does this thing spread? He's not a follower of Jesus. Over the course of writing that book and seeing the reality of the church, he meets a resurrected Jesus, completely changes his life, upends the way he thinks, and writes follow-up books after that as a follower of Jesus. Oh, wow. There's a book he calls The Victory of Christ, where he goes back through his first book later as a follower of Jesus and just adds more, a little bit biased. Like he's just a little bit more like, here's a little bit more that I'm not writing to in academia. And in that book, he introduced an idea that I think has merit and we don't talk enough about this concept, and it actually short-sights our gospel. Mm-hmm. But it's like, you'd be like, that's not in my storybook Bible. It's not heresy. It's just like, this is a thought. Okay.
Yeah.
So here's a thought. We like a poor Jesus. He makes sense. We like a Jesus. What does Jesus do for work? What's Jesus doing?
He was a carpenter before.
He's a carpenter. Yeah. And then before what? What's he doing? Like his ministry? How are they eating? Who's funding the ministry?
I believe Mary Magdalene.
And the women are doing a lot of the funding. Okay. Yeah. So, we're right about that. So Rodney would just be like, hey, this is interesting. The word carpenter for Jesus is only used 2 times in the Gospels. Mm-hmm. Twice. One time, it's saying, oh, his father, the carpenter.
Yeah.
The second is, oh, that carpenter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He makes the case. You could say, well, people get people mixed up all the time. He's in a household of carpentry. Yeah. He most likely apprenticed under your dad. Yep. This is someone just saying, like, it's the carpenter guy.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't think there's a strong enough case to say he was a carpenter. Mm-hmm. Here's what Stark suggests, which again, we don't have to agree on this. He suggests, he's like, wouldn't you think that if Jesus was a carpenter, a lot more of his stories would be about carpentry? Right. Like, it's just interesting. Like,
if you take the yoke of an oxen, that was made by carpenters, the yoke. And so Jesus would actually know how to make a perfect yoke to be able to put 2 oxen together. And so when he talks on make sure your yoke is equally yoked, he's speaking from experience.
Okay.
He understands
But then in that logic, couldn't you also say that, like, he could be a really good farmer?
Yeah.
There's that too.
I'm just like, let's keep going. We got parable, we've got the oxen. Mm-hmm. Give me another good carpentry story.
Flipping tables. He knows the exact spot.
He's like, the weight distribution of this is going to be perfect. Dude, I never thought about that. We imagine the table moving over. He's doing kickflips with them. He's like skate decking them. He's just like, wow. And it's just like, he just like rotates and then lands down. And people are like, I came to serve.
Vario flips.
Vario flips on the tables. People are like, that guy's flipping those tables. He's like, weight is balanced in the middle. Okay, so I'm not, again, like, we don't have to agree on this. I'm just saying the point that Stark would make is Jesus is probably primarily 2 things if we just looked at the language he talks about.
Right.
One, he is a rabbi.
Yeah. Teacher.
He's a rabbi.
Yeah.
We like to make him a magician rabbi. He's just he was a dumb kid and then God gave him power. He's like, he's a rabbi. God's given him a supernatural ability, but he is a rabbi. Okay, so Stark makes the thing that's like, his dad was a carpenter. We know Joseph was a carpenter.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
Stark would say, well, Jesus could have grown up in a business savvy family. Why? Like, show your work, Stark. Like, how did you get there? Well, interesting. Jesus is really good at telling stories about the economics of businesses.
Oh, yeah.
He is lights out.
Yeah.
So the word carpentry today is more like construction.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. But still, you don't get in construction and get to the level. If tax collector is like a Wall Street guy, that's the level of like kind of seedy.
Yeah.
But they're hustlers, man. They're smart and they know the Roman system.
Yeah.
Wall Street guys don't usually think of the business talkings of a carpenter or a construction worker and be like, "What, dude? That is really smart."
Yeah.
You seem to have these tax collectors being like, "That's genius."
Yeah.
Jesus seems to know how to talk economics, business, and kingdom. Where do you get that from? So,
right.
I will also add that in the scripture also talks about how when he was 12, he was teaching in the synagogues. They were letting him teach there.
So he had some level of like.
So yeah,
he's proficient around adults.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's take that story.
Mm-hmm.
It says that Jesus went to Jerusalem with his family every year. Okay, so that was a trip most people saved up their whole lifetime to go to. Jesus has brothers and sisters and goes to Jerusalem every year for Passover. That would be the equivalent of being like, I'm in the Bronx, and then we'd usually go to Europe every summer.
Yeah.
How many brothers and sisters you have?
Or the Hamptons. I got 4 sisters.
Yeah, we got 4 sisters.
Yeah.
Oh, we used to go to the Hamptons. Now we go to Corona Del Mar every summer.
Nice, yeah.
And you'd be like, what the heck? Like,
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's the level of what their travel would be. People save their whole life to do that trip. It's a spiritual experience.
Right.
Yeah.
It says they went, go look at your Bibles. It says they went every year.
Yeah.
So then Stark would say, like, where'd the money come from?
Right.
Mary is poor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You look at the lineage of Joseph, the guy doesn't seem to be like cranking out money. Wait a second. Don't those magi from the East, they bring some gifts. Oh, in my storybook Bible, they just put them there and they're cool to look at because they're decorative.
Yeah.
They were probably worth somewhere around $2 billion in today's currency of what they gave to Mary.
No way.
That'd be interesting. So could you start businesses with that?
Yeah.
Could you actually invest in your community? Did Jesus grow up? And this is where people are like, I don't know if I like that Jesus, but think about it. If Jesus grew up and knows what it's like to have.
Yeah.
And when he says, I actually have given away.
Yeah.
He's not just saying his kind of godness of what he can do. He's actually like, I gave it all.
Yeah.
Because I trusted the mission. Is that a piece to how we see Jesus that makes him fuller, not smaller?
Yeah. No. Wow.
So then when we look in light of that, you've got Peter. Peter goes back to his fishing boats post-resurrection, right? So Peter, if you have boats of boats, you had a business.
Mm-hmm.
He had a business he could leave and come back to.
That just makes sense though, Ryan, of how Jesus could like break down in his own parables, like the fishermen, the being fishers of men, and how he could relate to.
And so Peter's actually, let's say Peter's running a fleet of good boats.
Right.
He's got a little something going.
Right.
He hears Jesus like, dude, how are you the only rabbi I've ever heard who knows what he's talking about?
Absolutely.
You're like a business guy.
Yeah.
Now you've got tax collectors and business guys being like, wait a second, dude, I love the way you talk.
Yeah.
So then when Jesus says like, give it all up, he's saying 2 things. He's saying, 1, free yourself of this.
Yeah.
Like declutter your heart. The stuff you own will own you. The second is he's saying, because we get here and we're like a little shame-based. We're like, yeah, but I like my stuff.
Yeah.
Second, he's like, the mission will not happen without you.
Right.
God is not a magician snapping his fingers. He's like, are you willing to invest or not?
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, I don't know if I agree with the generosity of the church. They do the thing for the... God's like, listen, do you guys want a bottom line in your life or not? Like, how much do you want to be able to generate? Because I have the whole bank. You can generate it.
Yeah.
And how much are you just willing to give? And I'm like, what about my needs? And God's like, you don't even know what you need.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but I want all these cool toys. And God's like, you would crash a jet ski. Like, you are fine. And so what we did was, it was the pandemic. It was wild. And my wife and I started saying this thing to each other just because, like, politics were just wild. Remember when politics was just insane? And it was like, we were having so many rich conversations together because it sort of re-leveled the whole playing field. And then instead of fighting each other, we just found ourselves on like these conversations where we kept repeating to each other. We'd be like, okay, we'd always say to each other, I have the right to change my mind.
Yeah.
But, and then we might say something that's like completely unhinged or like whatever. And then she'd be like, okay, all right. And then I'd come back next day and be like, I do not think that. Like that was crazy. But we just carried this like freedom to be like, we have the right to change our mind. And we had worked at a church for 15 years.
I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Yeah. Which I do love that spirit. And then we'd worked at a church for 15 years and, we were kind of in a place where it was like we could launch one of the campuses. We had worked at the main one. There was just a lot of like leadership we had been given, kind of like all the cozy stuff at the church.
Yeah.
We had like a pretty sweet career. And career is not mission. Yeah. Do not mix career with mission in the church world. Career is mission, but that's not the way you look at it.
Right.
And so we were like, okay, this isn't a ladder to climb. We want to see the mission of these people that we love and do life with, like actually accelerated. What will we do? And we were on a drive to Leavenworth, and my wife is just like, what if we she goes, what would we lay on the altar if we knew that God would take care of us? And we had already gotten to the place of like, what if we just did something like, my wife would say, high risk, high reward.
Yeah.
High risk, high reward. Like,
yeah.
And we didn't start with the idea of a church. We were literally like, God, we'll just take one step to sell things so that we can invest in what we think you're doing, which was to move into the neighborhood we moved into. And so we put everything in our storage unit. So funny. It was all the stuff that was most precious. And just imagine your stuff.
Yeah.
And we would put on Facebook Marketplace a picture of everything. And I can't tell you when it was going on mission to like fund the next chapter of what God could do, which by the way, I don't think anybody has to sell everything. I don't think anybody has to move to Africa.
Yeah.
But you might have a garage, you'd sell everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever. I'll tell you the thing you should sell, whatever you go like this with.
Yeah.
Whatever that does, I'm like, well, you should sell that. Like that, look at the thing that you go like, no. And then I'm like, you think about selling that.
Yeah.
What we did is we would open this like garage, like a freaking store. People would come up Facebook Marketplace, and I thought it was going to be miserable, and it was so joyful. Because I got to be like Todd said, like, dude, here's this thing. I love this thing. We're going to love this thing.
Yeah.
Like, this thing has carried my wife and I the last 10 years. You are going to love this. And we just started selling it. And took that and put a down payment on a 700 square foot loft in downtown Tacoma because we wanted to move into the neighborhood because that's what we saw in the Gospels, like just pick a place. We literally looked at each other and been like, we are not going to start a church because we're moving. We're going to live here. Yeah. God can do whatever he wanted. Our heart was not to save the city because we had finally arrived. Mm-hmm. Our heart wasn't to be the pastors who were going to put the banners out and launch the church. We were just like, Jesus, we want to live in our neighborhood. Yeah. And
that's so awesome.
3 kids, 6, 4, and 2. We still live in 700 square feet with 14-foot ceilings. And we love our neighbors. And it's messy and wild. And I can walk to church tonight.
Yeah, and you normally do.
And that's it.
Oh.
You know, I with that story and me going, man, I can never sell. I becoming a follower of Christ and understanding it, to me, all my stuff is just stuff. I like my stuff, but I don't idolize my stuff. If it, I listened to Mel Gibson when his house burned down in the Palisades. He goes, God giveth, God give it away. And so when I heard that, I just was like, this is all because of God. And if he doesn't want me to have it anymore, he's going to take it away from me. And so living like that is just like, if someone broke into my house and stole it all, it'd just be like,
but more than that too is like, growing up how I did, unfortunate, you know what I mean? Like you just realize that this is just materialistic stuff.
100%.
But also 100%. Too, it's not only the material in material form, it's also what's in your heart, what leads it. Like if you start idolizing things and you think that's the bread and butter of life, well, you're just living it the wrong way,
exactly.
Unfortunately.
I mean, just like the young rich ruler, he just couldn't give it away.
Okay, go ahead, Mike.
Even more in depth is like if you look at King Solomon and how he lived.
Yeah.
He had all the women, all the gold, all the power, everything you could possibly want as a man. And he goes, meaningless. Everything is meaningless. And then sums it up in Ecclesiastes with the only thing worth any effort is worshiping God.
Can I give us one more controversial thing?
Yeah.
This is a hot take. This is my last one. It's a hot take. I got to test ride this podcast for a second. Okay, can I use a political term that I
do whatever you want
that we would agree is negative, but someone could go, well, no, I like that term.
Right,
Can I try it on?
Let's do it.
Okay, let's try this on, and you can be like, well, and I'll be like, never mind.
Just
okay, let's go for a second. Socialism taken to its extreme, full socialism.
Yeah,
full socialist, like communist country. Okay,
right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to play the American nuance. I just want to be like a full socialist country,
like Sweden.
Yeah. Maybe like Sweden. Maybe.
I'm
worried about you now, but I think. Okay, I'm gonna go like Berlin, like the Berlin Wall, like
East Berlin. East Berlin. Okay.
That's where I'm gonna go.
Okay,
so
now we're
Sweden
on the
feels like make me a little nervous because I'm like I don't want to get in an argument.
Yeah.
My wife's from Sweden.
There is a negative side to socialism.
Oh yeah.
Okay, good. I got all your heads nodding. Okay,
yes.
So we could say
Agreed.
that socialism could have some pieces that could be helpful, but there's a piece of the story that's not helpful.
Yeah.
To thriving humanity. Okay, we can agree with that.
Yeah.
Your wife's from Sweden. I don't want to have this conversation with her, but I just Venezuela might tell you the story like this has not been helpful. Okay?
Yeah.
She would agree. She would agree with us.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Then okay, great. So socialism, not kind of interesting in theory.
On paper.
Interesting on a paper.
Yeah.
Interesting in a fantasy novel we read.
Mm-hmm.
Potentially for the human thriving spirit doesn't do what you actually want it to do. Okay.
Yeah.
I think there are times because of the industrial church revolution of just how we've done church, we've created a socialism institution within the church.
Bro, 1,000%, bro.
Yeah.
Okay, so I come to church. I actually like this thing. I like this Jesus. I mean, I'm going to get baptized.
Yeah.
Who pays the bills?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Who pays the bills? Somebody pays the bills,
right.
But I don't really have to. Like, you don't know my income. And when God said 10%, like, did he really?
Yeah.
But do you see how that's not even that person's fault? It's a system we built for them.
Right.
They can't see a dollar amount that would impact the mission. So it's like actually disconnected from generosity. It just feels like I give because Jesus is kind of mad if I don't.
Yeah.
Or I like these people. What generosity was, and this is where I think it mattered for us to sell, I wasn't just selling my stuff to free myself. I could see that I was going to sell my stuff to move the mission forward. So, I mean, Kayla and I had the first 3 years of Assembly, we worked so many side hustles and so many things because we wanted, this is going to sound bad, but you'll get my heart. We wanted to be the top giver at Assembly.
Yeah.
We wanted to be I was like, I want to start a church and I want to put my money where my freaking mouth is. And I want to be the one that gives the most.
Wow.
100%.
I will bleed out for this thing. And good news about God is he's like, just hold on. Like, and now I'm like, well, okay, I'm not as high on the list because people who can do that come in are like, I actually have the ability to not go on a vacation this summer out of my 3 vacations because I want this mission to move. The mission moves at the speed of friendship, and then friendship leads to trust, and trust leads to generosity. And generosity is what moves the mission forward. So when we look at like the socialist mentality would just say, we all get it, but who pays the bill?
Yeah.
And sometimes you're like, well, my church is part of a network. They pay the main campus pays the bill. You see how we just got ourselves into an unhealthy vision of ministry where the mission should be like the early church was like, no, I front it. Like, I don't even know what else to say. I gave everything. And everything being the part that God had called me to. God calls them to they're selling fields. They're selling property. Like that's crazy. But also you get the sense they weren't selling their main property. They still live somewhere. So I just think when we look at that story, I'm not telling everybody to sell their stuff. I do say there might be different seasons and there may be, maybe you're like, I have this one thing I hold on tightly, sell it. And then I care less about you selling it. And I'm like, what amazing thing do you get to connect that need? You're like, I get to pay for blank for somebody. I get to make sure my church has blank. I get to, like, that's wherever you throw it at. I'm like, that's the magic.
Yeah.
That's so awesome.
Wow.
I told you that this episode was gonna be pretty magical.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I hope it's helpful, guys. Have me back on it.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
You
want to be 100.
I talk too much, and so you can be like, we'll save some of his stuff for episode 100.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No.
You want to be Brian.
I got a feeling, Brian. You got plenty for each, brother.
Yeah. Yeah, but he definitely wants to be here for the 100th episode.
Yeah, I want to be here for the 100th.
Okay.
Love you guys. Thank you guys so much.
Hey, we love you too. We appreciate you coming,
much, man.
Can I? Do you want me to pray us out?
Yeah,
Yes.
like I said, yeah, we have the guest pray us out. So if you don't mind. Oh, did I forget to pray in the beginning?
You did, but that's fine.
Yeah,
oh my goodness,
dude, do a recovery prayer.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Mike,
right.
he will call me out next week. He'll be like, "Don't forget to pray."
Yeah.
He'll catch us. I got you.
It's okay.
Oh Lord, we repent for not starting this.
I was just so excited to jump into it. I just slipped my mind.
God, we just thank you for the movement of the church. And
yes,
we believe in God. We love that picture of our little stick figures.
Yes, thank you.
Reimagine that into our hearts.
Hold on, time out. Can you move the mic? There you go, right there. Now, there you go.
This is the beginning of my prayer again. Sorry. I moved my mic, and then people were furious.
We want everybody to hear you.
And now you can hear my voice. Thank you, God, for the ability to see your church for what it is. And it's your bride. And we just want that reminder of the stick figures of the people. And we're pro building, God. We live in them. But God, that's not the church. And the church is not the institution. The church is the movement of your spirit through the lives of ordinary people who are activated to be on the hands and feet of you in Tacoma. And so we just ask that you would do that in us, in what you're building, that we would see ourselves like the mobilized Lego figurines in a massive set of your mission, and that we would stop trying to just build ourselves, and we would let you, the great guidebook director, orchestrate our lives. And so, God, we just know that the picture will be better on the other side. So allow us to be open-handed. Yes. Thank you for the way you write stories, rewrite our imagination for what the church can be. We love you in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Rust on my steeple, mud on my boots. Still smell the whiskey in these Sunday suits. Tattooed hands on a torn good book. Underlined grace like a guilty crook. You don't know the nights I've chased every cheap and crooked high. Still you meet me in that place where my alibis all die. We're damaged disciples bleeding in the choir line. Hands up shaking, but we're still gonna raise that sign. Broken but breathing, scars under flannel and lace. Damaged disciples getting dragged again by grace. Stall full of secrets, parked behind the church. Ash on the hay bales, heart in the dirt. Mama's old Bible on my cracked dash glass. Red letters flicker while the